Hello everyone, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo. Today's deck is our Lastlight Judgement list, which I've just realized we haven't done a brew on yet. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Lastlight Judgement, the 15 cost destroy everything that causes night to fall and never end, and basically resets the game with everyone having no power and no cards. It is an exciting card. It decimates to become cheaper, and it costs every single color to play. It's really, really fun to play with, and we've had a delightful time trying to win games with it in this particular format. So, what are we trying to do with this deck? We're trying to consistently play Lastlight Judgement by decimating the maximum number of things. In particular, we're looking for 0 cost and 1 cost decimates, which is to say we are looking for Reap to get all influence, following that up with emblems of Makkar, Grodov, and Shavka to get another cheap and free decimate, and adding a power. And then after that, maybe play something like Shattered Hopes to play a very cheap decimate. That's 3 decimates in one turn, reducing the cost of Lastlight Judgement and creating it as something of a surprise to our opponent. Also works for making surprise Soulflame riders, which are not always easy to deal with and can often win the game on their own. So the basic idea behind this deck is that we are decimating to get those very, very cheap effects. We can win the game a number of different ways, one by pressuring with Soulflame riders and Kato Arena Herald, which creates 8/8 giants. Both of those are pretty handy. 2 is by Lastlight Judgementing. Lastlight Judgement, of course, creates a situation where the game is now in free fall. Anyone who has the lowest life total is not likely to be okay, and if you have a Waystone gate when you Lastlight Judgement, you get an 8/8 giant to attack with against an opponent with 0 power, which is always a delightful time. Also, Soulflame Rider and Kato become much better draws after a Lastlight Judgement, and the Nightfall damage is enough to really, really push across. We can also use Condemn to fetch Light the Fuse, and Light the Fuse in our opponent's deck, which combined with the Nightfall draw and the Nightfall damage, tends to lead to a faster way of your opponent dying than you dying. Okay, so basically everything is based around that strategy, so we're primarily looking for consistency. To that end, we have a lot of card draw. We have Nahid's Distillation, Cull the Deck, we have Eager Offering. These numbers are a little bit stranger than I actually thought they were normally, but we've been running Eremot's Design and Display of Destruction to stabilize, as well as Proselytize to create extra cultists to sort of defend ourselves. But all of that card draw is designed to keep things pretty straightforward. Eremot's Designs kill stuff early, Display of Destruction kills stuff a little bit later than that, but also gains you life, and it can be sacrificed to draw, get extra power, or play a bunch of cultists, which is helpful for Kindling Carver. Kindling Carver cycles through a bunch of our deck as well, eating Kato Arena Herald, eating basically anything that you can play down on the board, the Proselytize tokens, the display tokens, all of that gets eaten with Devour and Kindling Carver, and that draws us more cards and gets us through more and more of our deck. Once we have our Lastlight Judgements and our Soulflame Riders, we play out those whole things, we reset the game completely and mess up our opponent. Finally, in our market, we have Ark of Sol to sacrifice units and get a little bit of extra power. Again, trying to fix all of the influence in case we don't end up with a Reap in hand. Reap is super important for this list. Charchain Flail is just a solid mid-range removal card that you can fetch with Condemn. Combust, same thing. Condemn here is being used primarily to pop face Aegises to make sure that your opponent doesn't have an Aegis when you Lastlight Judgement. It's pretty effective in that respect. And Shattered Hopes steals the Aegis if you have to hit the Aegis on, say, a unit, while also allowing you to decimate and steal a big card from your opponent's hand, all of which are really, really useful things in setting up the Reap deck. So yeah, basically we reset the game over and over again. If the first reset doesn't work, we can do it again pretty quickly. If the second reset doesn't work, then we're probably still drawing into Soulflame Riders and Katos, but we are also pretty likely to draw into a Condemn, get Light the Fuse, and set up our opponent's deck that way. So we are definitely trying to get the maximum amount of advantage out of those Lastlight Judgements once they are finished, but mostly we're trying to play the Lastlight Judgement and win with the Judgement. Got it? All right. Cool. Let's go ahead and go into some games. Show you a few of those, and we'll be back in just a moment with some fancy shenanigans. Cheers. Forgot to start recording. Here we are up against Urbo. I've got a Kindling Carver and an Eremot's Design and a Destruction Chant. That kind of leads to something that we can potentially play with. At the very least, we can Decimate Emblem Makkar, which is going to end up being useful, and Destruction Chant picks up time, so we'll be okay on that front as well. Friendly Entrancer can hit a lot of different things. They decided to go for Kindling Carver, which is actually good for us because we didn't have a lot of use for that card at the time anyways. I think we're going to play this Emblem so that we can seek out time and try to set up that Eager Offering. If we end up seeing another Entrancer here, that's rough, but at least we have the Eremot's Designs to get a little bit started. Okay, so Stonescar Banner, just to play the power. Kindling Carver gets us something we can trade with. Probably not going to be that relevant, but notable nonetheless. It is a thing to sacrifice as well, so that's important. Praxis Banner, setting up Eager Offering. Opponent knows I have this, but there's not a lot of things they can do about it. They can Defile. And Defile would be a little bit rough for us. I will take a trade of a Carver for a Crack the Earth. It's possible that they aren't going to do anything of the sort, and they're just going to attack in to the Eager Offering to try and get Ark of Sol, which we won't allow. So, all right, Emblem of Grodov being played here, maybe not decimated. Unraveling Fanatic is a world of good for us, although we do have to be a little bit careful to get rid of it at some point. Like, we want our Display of Destruction to get us into the situation where we can actually play with it. Alright, I'm going to lead with Kindling Carver. We generally want to do our Kindling Carver sacrifices before we play power, in case we draw power. There's an Emblem of Makkar, which we'll play. We'll Decimate. And we got a 2/2 down. That stops the Cultist, that also stops the Unraveling Fanatic, so a little bit less damage that we're taking every turn, while also pushing on our opponent. It's important to push for damage, since you want your damage totals to be as close as possible. We do have the ability here to get Soulflame Rider down if we get a Reap, which is nice. We also have a ton of Decimates, so we're mainly looking for a Reap, or we're looking for something to pull that power out. Traverse Farm, setting up with Strangers, so this is going to be a Grodov Stranger list, pretty likely. The 2/2 Deadly is going to be really handy in that case. Like, we were going to want it for as long as possible. This Kindling Carver could potentially go. I think I might get very, very risky here. We're going to just go straight for it. Got a cheap-ish Nahid's Distillation. The only problem with that is that I don't have anything to play it on. It will cost 3, so if we can find a unit for 1 to play it on, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. So next up, we're going to Devour. Found a Condemn, which is great. I can get the card out of the Unraveling Fanatic now. I think that's a good time to exchange since we get the Nahid's Distillation friend. Combust is going to be really useful against the Stranger that we're going to be C-played, so we're going to go for that over other options. Light the Fuse is nice here, but I think it's not particularly what we're going for. If I Decimate Emblem of Shavka or Emblem of Makkar, I'll have a unit to play next turn, and I'll be able to Decimate again, so we'll do that. And we'll end our turn. Slightly too many cards. We see the Emblem of Makkar next, most likely. But we're probably going to play Ash Elemental into Combust. Units are Strangers. 5 means Grodov Stranger, so we will Ash Elemental Combust that. Oh, but we see an Ark of Sol, so it's possible that we aren't going to see that particular Stranger, and instead we're going to see Makkar's.
We hunt and thrive.
And Makkar's is something that we can deal with. I'm not particularly worried about it. Let's take a quick look and see if we can play Lastlight Judgement. The answer is yes, we can. So we Reap. We Emblem. We Lastlight Judgement. That kills the site, the Stranger, everything else, and completely empties them out of power. So, whatever they stole, they don't get to keep it. We can take a look and see what it was. It's probably a Nahid's Distillation. So we are reset, 22 to 22. They don't like those odds. Especially with our Soulflame Riders costing 0. So, that'll be game. Kind of wish they'd stuck it out, but all the same. Alright, here we are up against God Ares. We got a Waystone gate right away, which is definitely not a bad start. We also get to decimate this Emblem of Shavka if we feel like it, which I think might be worth it here. We are going to be working our way up to 4, so Emblem of Shavka is not the most amazing decimate right now, but we are going to be playing at least these 2, and we'll see what happens. Time Sigil, we have our Reap, so that's a good start. That means that we are well on our way towards getting Lastlight Judgement off. High Prophet of Soul, not doing too much here. We're just going to play down the Ash Elemental. And I think I'm going to play the Waystone Gate over the Ash Elemental, since that makes use of the 3rd power while keeping our 2 cost 3/3 available for next turn. Opponent wants to get deep into power very, very early, so we're going to do our best to make sure that that doesn't end up being a huge problem. I can pull power with Waystone Gate at the moment to help out with getting Nahid's Distillation set up and getting our card draw set up. Or, if we'd like, we can Devour and get ourselves into a better situation that way. Our opponent is already well on their way to Kairos, so this is getting interesting. But they do need a lot more red to do that, so we're okay for the moment. I would say that at the moment, the thing I most want to do is I'm going to play Emblem. I'm probably going to decimate Emblem if I can, which I can't at the moment. So we'll just draw 3 cards here. Found a couple more emblems. We got Kato here as well, so we have some Devour shenanigans available. We might just Nahid's Distillation again, though, since the card draw is really, really helping us. Okay, Purify kills our 3/3. Opponent's going for something very, very big, but we have a lot of time and energy available to sort of counteract that. We have the Reap, we have the Devour. We are in pretty good shape here. If I want a Waystone Gate, I can, but I'd rather use the Devour in response to certain spells. Gentle Grazer seems like something we can potentially deal with, since Kato can just block it. Yeah, Devour here. That keeps the Purify from going off. And we have a Soulflame Rider, which is extremely useful. Although, unfortunately, Gentle Grazer did come down at the end of our turn, which means Kato dies, sadly. Okay, things are getting interesting now, and quite possibly deadly. I can't really do much here. The best I can do is Nahid's Distillation and try to get things set up right away, which we're going to do right now. There's the Lastlight Judgement. So, Emblem Makkar gets us a little bit set up. Reap gets us pretty close as well. Unfortunately, I can't Display of Destruction for the remaining power that I need. So we're just going to have to do Soulflame Rider and Death Elemental and really hope for the best that that Kairos is not quite ready to go. If he drew another Kairos, that's going to get pretty problematic. With any luck, we get a small stall here, or at least not a complete rout. Okay, Purify's good. That's going to deal 3. Which combined with Ramba... Okay, so we're going to take about 12 here. Ramba can be used to attack face here to get a discount, but it looks like it's going to be Gentle Grazer, then swing for 12, which will put us down to 12. We can live at 12. That's not a big deal. Kairos' choice here. Not really many things that you can do with that apart from Sloth Me again, which I think we will see happening. And Ramba plays another Gentle Grazer, which if that plays a 2-drop is going to be kind of irritating. Oh no, that's a lot of damage. But they did it to our face, which is actually really important. So, that's very good for us. We get the Decimate here. That plays into a power. None of these are going to be useful, of course. If I could, I would be Display of Destructioning here to do a little bit more. But yeah, all I get here is Lastlight Judgement since we are out of stuff. So Lastlight Judgement blows everything up. All of that power that they established. We get an 8/8 giant, and we've got a couple of turns to try and find a way to kill them. The Sloth sticks around for 2 turns, so it'll be a blocker. But they don't have power yet, so that's good news for us. Neither do we, of course. So we're going to be looking for power. We're going to be looking for condemns. We have to be very careful with our power here since we are ostensibly trying to win with this Gladiator Brawler. Okay, first time Sigil's good. 8/8 looks good. And the Soulflame Rider looks good. We could play Emblem Grodov here, but there's not a lot of reason to. We take an extra point of damage, and at the moment it looks like we have what we need to take out the game. So there we go. That about does it for today. There are some highlights of this brew up to your left, I think, assuming that I did it right. That'd be this direction instead. So if you are interested, you can go see those. This deck's a lot of fun to play is mainly the thing. I don't think it's an especially competitive list. I think Lastlight Judgement is particularly interesting on the competitive setup, but like it also does require, it is a combo deck, so you have to get all of the pieces running in conjunction. This is our best guess effort at maintaining that particular setup. I think it's a wild amount of fun to play, and that's the primary reason why we support this one. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time with more Eternal Brews. Cheers.